workers. All that and more coming up. Welcome to Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, the War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman. In a major victory for President Obama and congressional Democrats, the House has approved a landmark measure that would expand health care to over 30 million uninsured Americans, while forcing millions to purchase health insurance. The 219 to 212 vote late Sunday night came nearly 3 months after the Senate's approval of the bill on Christmas Eve. No Republicans voted with the Democratic majority. The House later approved another package of changes that will now face a testy Senate vote before reaching Obama's desk. Although the measure marks the largest expansion of health insurance since the founding of Medicare and Medicaid in the 1960s, it's been criticized for further entrenching the for-profit health care system that rations care based on wealth. In a national address, Obama acknowledged the bill falls short of radical reform, but said it marked a victory for the American people.
This legislation will not fix everything that ails our healthcare system, but it moves us decisively in the right direction. This is what change looks like. In the end, what this day represents is another stone firmly laid in the foundation of the American dream. Tonight, we answered the call of history, as so many generations of Americans have before us. When faced with crisis, we did not shrink from our challenge. We overcame it.
The passage followed weeks of intense negotiations to secure the needed votes. Democratic leaders obtained the backing of progressive lawmakers despite excluding a public option. And several anti-abortion lawmakers signed on after President Obama agreed to issue an executive order reasserting that no federal money in the bill would be used to fund abortions. In a statement, Terry O'Neill of the National Organization for Women said, quote, "The message we have received today is that it is acceptable to negotiate health care on the backs of women, and we couldn't disagree more," she said. In another victory for the White House, the House also approved an education measure that would bring about a major overhaul of student aid. The bill would end government payments to banks that have provided student loans at exorbitant rates. Instead, the government would expand direct student loans and award an additional $36 billion in Pell Grants over 10 years. The day before the health care vote, hundreds of right-wing activists gathered outside the Capitol to protest the health care reform bill.
Do these politicians know that we weren't bussed in, we weren't carried here, we weren't organized by some group, we have no jumbotrons, and we have no big electronic systems here? These are the grassroots people in this country. This is Joe and Mary America that have come out here.
Several crowd members reportedly shouted discriminatory slurs at Democratic Congress members as they entered the Capitol. Congressmember John Lewis and other members of the Congressional Black Caucus said they were called the N-word by a group of protesters. And Congressmember Barney Frank, an openly gay member of Congress, was yelled at with a homophobic epithet. As the health care vote gripped the Capitol, tens of thousands of people marched through the streets of Washington on Sunday in a major rally for immigration reform. Estimates of the crowd size range from 200,000 to as much as 500,000. Organizers held the March for America under the slogan of immigration reform for new American families, economic justice for all American families. Democratic Congressmember Nydia Velázquez, the chair of the Congressional Hispanic Caucus, called on President Obama and Congress to back immigration reform.
We stand here to say to the Republican leadership in the Senate, to the Democrats in the Senate, and also in the House, and the President, Barack Obama, we want immigration reform now.
The immigration rally came one day after anti-war activists held a protest to mark the 7-year anniversary of the U.S. invasion of Iraq. Organizers say around 5,000 people took part, making it the largest anti-war protest since President Obama's decision to escalate the war in Afghanistan last year.
This is a disgrace that this country, 7 years after the invasion of Iraq, is still in that country and is upping things in Afghanistan. It is wrong. Innocent people die.
At least 8 people were arrested after laying coffins at a White House fence. Among them was the peace activist Cindy Sheehan, whose group Peace of the Action helped organize the march. Rallies were also held in a number of other cities, including San Francisco, Chicago, New York, Seattle, and Los Angeles. In Israel and the occupied territories, 4 Palestinians have been killed and several others wounded in Israeli military attacks on the West Bank and Gaza Strip. On Saturday, 2 Palestinian teenagers, aged 15 and 17, were shot dead near the West Bank city of Nablus. The Israeli military says its forces fired rubber bullets, but Palestinian doctors provided X-rays showing the teens were killed by live ammunition. One of the victims was shot 7 times. The killings came shortly after Palestinians held a protest against a Jewish settlement that's been accused of trying to steal a vital Palestinian water well in the village of Iraq Barun. Another 2 Palestinian teens were shot dead the next day, also near Nablus. The Israeli military says they'd tried to attack an Israeli soldier. Both victims were 19 years old. Meanwhile, in Gaza, 13 Palestinians were wounded Friday when Israel bombed Gaza's abandoned international airport. Amidst the attacks on the occupied territories, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu renewed his vow to continue expanding Israeli settlements in East Jerusalem. On Sunday, Netanyahu said he had even sent the Obama administration a letter explicitly outlining his rejection of a U.S. call for a settlement freeze.
Our policy on Jerusalem is the same policy followed by all Israeli governments over the past 42 years, and it has not changed. As far as we are concerned, building in Jerusalem is the same as building in Tel Aviv. These are things that we made clear to the U.S. administration.
Netanyahu's vow to continue settlement building comes 2 days after Secretary of State Hillary Clinton praised him for offering what she called, quote, useful and productive proposals on resolving the dispute over Israeli settlements. Neither the Obama administration nor the Israeli government released details of Netanyahu's proposals. Netanyahu is scheduled to meet with President Obama at the White House Tuesday, following an appearance at the annual conference of the pro-Israeli government lobby, AIPAC. Clinton is also scheduled to address the conference. Back on the West Bank, Palestinian lawmaker and physician Mustafa Barghouti said Netanyahu is deliberately undermining any remote prospects for peace.
Today, Netanyahu did 2 major provocations. First of all, his army executed 4 young Palestinian civilians for no reason. They killed them in cold blood and with high-velocity bullets. And second, he declared that he's going to continue settlement activities in East Jerusalem and in other parts of the occupied territories. This is a clear-cut provocation. His aim is to destroy any possibility for peace, any possibility for a Palestinian state, and any possibility for a solution based on 2-state solution.
Mustafa Barghouti. UN Secretary-General Ban Ki-moon has renewed calls for an end to the blockade of the Gaza Strip and all settlement building on the West Bank. Speaking in Ramallah on Saturday, Ban Ki-moon said every Israeli settlement is illegal.
The world has condemned Israel's settlement expansion plans in East Jerusalem. Let us be clear. All settlement activities is illegal anywhere in occupied territory, and this must stop. The Quartet has reaffirmed that position.
The next day, the UN Secretary-General Ban Ki-moon visited the Gaza Strip, where he said the U.S.-backed Israeli blockade has caused, quote, unacceptable suffering. His visit